Hi all, good evening. Hi Mangala, hi Sirisha. So am I audible? Sirisha and Mangala?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you. I'm sharing my screen. One minute. So I have shared my screen. I hope everyone able to see my screen. See, yesterday we have seen high level what is the Java exception handling. So example, what are the compile time exceptions? What are the runtime exceptions? See, main thing is we need to understand how we need to handle exceptions in Java programming using try, catch, finally blocks. So that is very important. Whatever exceptions, whatever error in Java programming, when we are executing program, because in a class, right, we'll be having multiple methods. In the methods, we'll write the code logic. So we we may expect multiple exceptions based on the our code logic. So to handle those exceptions in the Java classes and methods, we will use the concept exception handling mechanism. So here, try block will be there, catch block will be there, and finally block will be there. So yesterday I have explained try block means to identify to the defects, the exceptions in the program logic. We'll be using try block. Catch means so we'll handle the it will catch the identified exceptions. Example null pointer exceptions. If we get in the code logic, then it will catch the exception and it will display like what kind of exceptions it is throwing. So catch block is handling the exceptions. So finally block means so whatever the action items. That means whenever even though the exception throws or not, we need to mention a certain code logic to execute in the Java program. That means in a class. So example, when you get any exception, so without mentioning finally block, it will exit the program. When you get the when the program throws exception, we have we have discussed 2 days back like every method we will use throws keyword and what kind of exception we may get. So it will whatever exceptions is throwing, right, it will exit the program whenever you got the exception without finally block. When you give try and catch block only, but when you give the finally block, some logic in the finally block like closing the browsers, closing the database connections, the closing actions of the Java the particular test case, then even though we got the exceptions, the finally block code will execute and then it will exit the program. So that is the reason finally block will be used to execute certain logic even though errors throwing in the Java program. So these are the high level definitions. So here we will see some examples. So runtime exceptions. So what is runtime exceptions? Runtime exceptions is the superclass of all classes. Okay, that exceptions are thrown during the normal operation of Java virtual machine. So runtime exception and its subclasses are unchecked exceptions. the most common exceptions. So don't confuse. So we have two types of exceptions: runtime exceptions and compile time exceptions. Okay, just take an example of two exceptions of runtime. That means null pointer exception and array index out of bounds exception. These are the different types of exceptions throwing in the Java programming. So unclass cast exception, invalid argument exception. These are all the runtime exceptions. If you see the what is a null pointer exception? Null pointer exception is the exception thrown by Java Virtual Machine when the program tries to call a method on the null object. That means when it will throw the null pointer exception in the Java programming. So when program tries to call a method, normally in a class we used to create a object and we used to call the methods, right, for any class. So whenever we are trying to call a method on the null object, so there is no object creation, so we are trying to call the methods on the null object. Okay, or perform other operations, and not only calling the methods, we can perform more to access the variables in other operations using the objects, right? Objects of a class. So whenever we are performing a calling a method or any other actions of on the null object, then a user should not attempt to handle this kind of exceptions because it will only patch the problem and not complete. It means when don't worry about this definitions and all. Whenever you are trying to access any methods or whenever you want to do any operations using the null object, then it will throw the null pointer exception. This is the one example. And when it will throw array index out of bounds exception, array index out of bounds exception. This is the exception that is automatically thrown by Java runtime environment when a program incorrectly tries to access a certain location in a set that is non-existent. That means in array, when you are trying to access a certain location, certain position, array elements will be stored in according to the indexes, right? So when you are trying to access any location, okay, which is that element is not available in the array, but you are trying to access it. So in that kind of a scenario, it will throw the array index out of bounds exception. So this is normally this frequently will get this exception. Okay, when array index requested is negative or more than or equal to array size. So these are the different scenarios. If more than expected elements storing in the array, and that means, and also if any negative numbers, okay, negative indexes are requested from the array, then it will throw array index out of bounds exception. So the arrays of Java using zero based indexing, as we all know, arrays storing the objects, that means array concept. So it is like array list, linked list, that storing the objects based on the indexes, right? The positions. It will start with the zero index first. First element stored in the zero index and so on. So the last element comes with the index of size 1. Okay, and the ninth element comes. That means just they are saying the elements are storing in the array based on the indexes, right? The positions. So the array index, when you are trying to access an index which is not available, then that time it will throw array index out of bound exception. When you are trying to access negative index, when you are trying to access store the elements out of, that means if the array size is some 100 elements, if you're trying to store some one element, one or two element, then it is throwing this error. So different scenarios they are saying. So invalid argument exception, this is another type of exception. So this invalid argument exception is an exception raised when an invalid parameter is passed to a certain method on a service. That means normally where we are passing the parameters inside the methods, right? So when you are writing any method, inside the method, when in the concept of method overloading, if you see the overloading method, in a whoops concept I am saying, we are passing the parameters inside the method only. So within the same class, we are creating the multiple methods with the same method name, but with different argument, with different data types and different number of arguments. That means, just I am giving this example. Normally, we will um, store the parameters, okay, inside the methods, right? The naming convention. So they are saying when you are trying to pass the invalid parameter to a method, then we can get the invalid argument exception. We should not pass invalid arguments. So whenever you are trying to pass, it will throw invalid argument exception. So these are we have different kind of exceptions. Just we'll see the few, because the process will be the same, how to handle the exceptions throwing in the Java program. We will use the try block, catch block to identify the defects and to catch the defects. That means to catch the exceptions, to identify the exceptions. So for the first example, here public class name, and then we'll write a method public void, some method name is Greek, geeks for cakes method name. So this after the method name, we will use the throw, sorry, not after. In this example, inside the method they are giving. So whenever you are using throw, there are two keywords, throws, that will give here throw throws some exception. After the method name, we will give throws keyword. Okay, this is one example. Normally, inside the method, when you're writing the method, inside the method, when you use throw, throw, it is not throws. So the throw keyword will be used to create a new customized exceptions. So throw new operator and give some method, some exception. So there now we are expecting some new exception in this Greeks method. So whenever you are defining the customized new exceptions, we will use the throw keyword. That's what I want to explain. Okay. So the difference between throws is throws keyword will be used on the method signature to expect some exceptions, to throw some exceptions in that particular program. Throw keyword will be used to create a customized new exceptions. Okay. This is another method. This is main method. This is normal method. Within a class, we can write normal methods also, right? The concrete methods we can say here, not abstract. Abstract means we won't have definition. This is concrete method. So we can write the other methods along with the main method. Main method will write to create the code logic for the execution of that particular program, particular class. So in this example, we define one method and one another main method. So public static void main method, inside that we will use try block. So try block will be used to identify the exception, not catching, to identify the exception. So here new GFG Greek process. That means what they are doing is GFG is a class name. So that means they are GFG brackets. Whenever a class name, after a class name, if you are giving a open bracket, close bracket, that is we can call as constructor, that particular class constructor. So new GFG dot, we are calling Greek for geeks method. That means we are calling this method using the constructor. So and then, so this is a logic only, don't worry, because in this public static void main, what they are doing is they are just calling this method. Okay, and they have given new also here. That is exception. That's what they are giving some wrong code. Okay, so within the main method, when you write any logic, when you are putting try block, that means it is identifying the defects, the exceptions throwing in this logic. That's why they have given some wrong code here. Okay. And then catch exception. How to catch exception? Catch block. Catch exception, some object. So within the catch block, we are writing some, that means we are catching the exceptions. Whatever exceptions identified in the try block, right? We are catching that exception here and we are displaying the exception. Okay. So that's why within the catch block, within brackets, we'll give the exception object, exception type and object. So whatever exceptions throwing here, it will catch in the catch block and we can display what kind of exception thrown in the program. So these are the try block creation and catch block creations in a Java class to handle the exceptions. Create a subclass and extend. See here. Again, we are creating a one subclass. Class geeks extends runtime exception. So if class geeks is a child class, which is extends the runtime exception. Okay. Just they are writing some logic to show whether how it is, how Java programming is throwing the exceptions. That's it. Don't worry about the logic. It is a incorrect logic here. Okay, this logic also incorrect. Just they are giving some logic and they are showing us how we will get the exceptions in Java program. So if you see here, here also some child class extending some super class, example, and they are constructing a using the class name. When you give public class name open bracket close bracket means this is a constructor. So class name after the class name within the same class, if you give open bracket close bracket, it is a constructor of that particular class. So public geeks that means this is a constructor for this geeks class, and within the constructor, what actions we will do? We will initialize the variables and also we will call the methods. So within the constructor, we are calling the super class method. Just this logic they have given. Now they are executing the program, executed the program, and what is the output? The example of runtime exception. If you see here, here it is throwing some exception because we should not go. We should not give new operator because within the main method, simply we need to call the method of that class using the class name. Okay. Or object creation. They haven't created any object here. So directly they are calling some method, the method of the class using some constructor. Here it is throwing the runtime exception. Okay, because this way of calling the method is wrong. Okay. Because we haven't created object here, right? Directly we are calling using some constructor. That is not the case. Normally we need to create the object for this GFG class. So after creating a object dot method, that is the process, right? Here they haven't created any object and they are calling using null object. So here some null pointer exception will throw. So just they are giving example of some, just they are giving, not they haven't given the exception name, just they are giving some runtime exception. So whatever exception they are displaying in system.out.println, it will show as a output. So in this case, when you are executing this program, this logic is wrong. That's why it is throwing the runtime exception. Okay. So now let's create one more common example for runtime. So another example they are showing for array index out of bound exception. This exception occurs when we want to access array more than its size. For example, we have an array of size 5 and we want to access array 6. As we discussed a few minutes back, if the array size is 5, example, if you are trying to access the sixth element, then it will throw, because it is storing only 5 elements, but you are trying to access the sixth element, sixth object. Then in that cases, it will throw array index out of bounds exception. So what is the example? We have created a class, and within the class public static void main method, and within the main method they are creating integer array. Okay, some integer array variable. A is a integer array variable, That means A should have an integer array which is having 1 to 5 elements. Okay. And then you are using for loop for that to display the each element. So in this case, what if you see in here, if you see here, system.out.println of A of I. That means you are giving a for loop condition in starting from the 0th index to 5th index. Less than 6 means till the 5th index. So this is a for loop only condition. So what when you are executing this program, what will happen? So it will give index 5 out of bounds for length 5. So index 5, that means it is storing normally 0 index means first element, first index means second element. So second index, third index, fourth index. It is having only 4 indexes, but you are trying to access the 5th index, that is 6th element. So then it is having only 5 elements till the 4th index, but you are trying to access the 5th index or 6th object. That is the reason the size is you are trying to access the element which is not stored in the array. So that is, in that case, it will throw the array index out of bound exception. So this exception will come as a output. Okay. So these are the, see, when you are writing any Java program, when you are while you are practicing, so just use try catch blocks. Use try block, write for within a method, main method, okay, or any method. If you give some code logic, when you are expecting some defects, some exceptions, give try block. Within the try block, write the logic, and then give after try block, give immediately catch block and exception. And if you know the exception, write the exception name and some object. Then it will, you can display the exception. So this is how it will throw the exceptions, and it will handle the exceptions in the Java programming. So try it and show when we are practicing the programs in our Eclipse IDE, so that you will get to know how it is throwing exceptions. So exceptions, I'm not covering more because whatever exceptions, right, the process will be the same. You need to write the code logic, incorrect logic, or if you write correct logic also, anyway, it won't throw any exception. It will execute the program. If you are writing by mistake some incorrect logic, then in that case, it will throw some exceptions. It will catch the exceptions. So just practice. Okay. So we have completed the Java concepts, all oops concepts, collections, strings, and exception handling. So everyone please practice and come back with the questions in daily training so that I will clarify the questions. So now we will enter into Selenium concept. So Selenium is a automation tool. Okay. Normally, currently we are using Selenium WebDriver. Okay. But before WebDriver, just we will see what is a Selenium. Selenium is a automation tool which is like a popular automation tool which is a open source. Open source means there is no license. Anyone can access anyone can access Selenium. We can use Selenium for our projects because it's a open source. There is no license. Any organization, any employee, any student easily easily they can use Selenium because it's a popular open source tool. And also Selenium is a some this is automation tool which is a having a framework. That means a proper automation framework. So always Selenium will be used to automating the web applications only. We won't use Selenium for automating the desktop applications. Just remember, always Selenium automation tool will be used to automating the web applications. Okay, like example, Amazon web application, or ICICI Bank application, or Flipkart application, all are like a web applications, right? So we will use the Selenium only for the web applications. So it is widely used for functional testing. Functional testing means it's a normally whatever when you are getting any project in your organization, functional testing purpose. That means for the SA system testing, user acceptance testing. That means for end-to-end testing, we will use Selenium for automation purpose only, not functional testing, right? That not manual testing. So functional testing, we will in the functional testing, we will use Selenium for automating that particular web applications. And also we will use for the regression testing. So regression testing is nothing but when you are making when you are doing some project, the client asks you make as client expecting some changes in the existing applications during your testing. Then what you need to do regression testing means the changes for the changes also you need to cover the test cases, and then you need to execute the test cases. Just make sure we need to ensure the existing behavior of the application is not breaking because of the changes, the new changes. So that kind of testing we will call regression testing. So we will do the regression testing to ensure all common functionalities of the application working as expected. There is no deviation. There is no behavior changes in the application, even though with the new changes introduced in the application. That is possible using regression testing. So regression automation Selenium tool will be used for regression testing purpose also, and also to check the performance testing also. We will see why they are saying all these things. These are only definitions. So Selenium supports multiple programming languages. So using Selenium automation tool, it will support multiple languages. It will support the Java language. It will support to C# language. It will support Python language. It will support Ruby language. So we can automate any web application with the combination of Java and Selenium, with the combination of C# and Selenium, with the combination of Python and Selenium. So one language we will be used along with the Selenium automation tool. So currently we learn using Java language. So most of the clients, right, they will use Java with Selenium only. A few clients they may go for C# and Python. Depends on the framework they are using. So just learn one language, that is sufficient. So using Java language, just learn how to use the automation tool Selenium. So make it now in the Selenium tool, we have four components, four major components available in the Selenium tool. What are the components? The Selenium IDE. IDE means Integrated Development Environment. So first they introduced the Selenium IDE. This is a kind of a record and playback tool. We will record the any application. We'll click the button, record button. It will record the actions. Example, during the manual testing, what tester will do, he will log in into application manually by giving the username password. If he will click the login button, and it will he can able to log in into the application using manual testing, manual steps. So Selenium IDE means record and playback. We will click the record button, and then we will record the all the actions of the user all the user actions performing on the particular application. That means how to open a browser, how to give username, password, how to log in after clicking login button. All these actions we are recording using Selenium IDE, and we can play also. We will record the actions and we'll play, record and play. So no need to write programming. The automatically the Selenium IDE tool record the actions, the test steps, and it will play the actions. That is a Selenium IDE. This is a traditional model. A long back, 15 years back, 20 years back, people use Selenium IDE. That time, no need to write the scripting. So directly, this IDE tool will be used to record the test cases and to play the test cases, to execute the test cases. And then after some time after Selenium IDE, the second component, Selenium remote control. Selenium remote control also introduced. This is also used. This component also used in the Selenium remote control. For this Selenium remote control is needed some server. So to use the Selenium remote control, we need some server to be available in the automation side. Okay, so this is another component. This is also we used to automate the web applications. Currently, since I think almost 10 years or 15 years, the Selenium WebDriver is very famous. Advanced features will be there. So currently also we are using Selenium WebDriver. So in Selenium WebDriver, why it is popular means no need of any separate server like Selenium remote control. There is no record and playback actions. We can we have the advanced features of in the Selenium WebDriver, like to handle the frames, to handle the multiple windows, multiple browsers. Okay, cross platform testing. So WebDriver is a popular Selenium component, so Selenium WebDriver, because the driver object is communicating with the application browsers. So the driver object of Selenium WebDriver will communicate with the different browsers, Chrome browser, Mozilla Firefox, Internet Explorer. Whenever you are opening an application in any browser, the driver object of Selenium WebDriver communicating with that to automate the web applications. This is the reason, because of the advanced features, it is a popular tool. So now most of the organizations using Selenium WebDriver only. So and then another component in Selenium is Selenium Grid. Selenium Grid means this will be used for the parallel execution. So parallel execution means one server will be there and multiple nodes will be there. That means one system. So we are having one machine as a server, multiple machines as a clients. That means example five when you are developing some five testers will be there. So each tester is coding in his local machine, right? That we can consider as the client, that node, the client node. It means the local desktop where they are maintaining, where they are integrating the code of the five testers in the server. So they will integrate the code of the five testers and they are storing in the server. That is a remote. That server will be available in the same location or my remote location. So in the Selenium Grid, we will execute some in a project. We created some 100 test cases, 100 automation test cases. So 100 automation test cases we are running in the five missions. Each mission 20 test cases the same time. So using the one server, so we are running in the server, and the 20 test cases of first mission, node 1, node second mission, node 2. So 20 test cases of each mission will be executed parallelly using the concept of Selenium Grid. That means we can say parallel execution. So parallel execution means we are running the automation test cases parallelly in a different missions. Okay, this will handle using Selenium Grid. So if you see this diagram, Selenium tool is a, if you consider this is a suite, kind of a test suite. So Selenium tool suite is containing four components. Selenium IDE, which is used for record and playback, and Selenium Grid, Selenium remote control, which is used not currently not using it. They used long back because it needs some server for using that remote control. Nowadays they are not using Selenium RC. So and then Selenium WebDriver. Currently, we are using Selenium WebDriver component. And then Selenium Grid. This is also we can use now for the parallel execution purpose. Okay. So Selenium IDE, Selenium Remote Control, Selenium WebDriver, Selenium Grid. These are the 4 components available in the Selenium tool suite. Okay. So what is Selenium IDE? As we discussed, right? Record and playback. So it will record the with Selenium IDE, users can record how they use the web application. So the user actions, it will record. So it will automatically playback means Selenium IDE automatically repeats what you record earlier. Whatever you record the actions, right? We can play it like a execution. So browser check. Selenium IDE works on a various browsers for testing. So Selenium IDE also working on multiple browsers. So these are all like how Selenium IDE, what is Selenium IDE, how what are the advantages of Selenium IDE. Okay, just go to it. Selenium RC, Selenium Remote Control. Selenium Remote Control is was the one of the earliest Selenium tools. Okay, before the Selenium WebDriver. So this remote control, the Selenium RC allowed testers to write automated web application test cases in various programming languages. So Selenium RC also supports multiple languages, Java language, C Sharp, Python, like that. So the key features of Selenium RC was its ability to interact with web browsers using a server. As I mentioned, it should interact with the web browsers using a server. So it need a server. So we need a server to for the Selenium remote control for automating the web applications, for communicating the web browsers. Okay, which acted as a intermediary between the testing code and the browser. Okay, so server is needed for automating the web applications when we are using Selenium remote control. So Selenium driver is often considered the better choice for. So why Selenium WebDriver is famous means for this there is no need of any separate server. So directly that Selenium driver object is communicating with the browsers to automate the web applications. That's why this is a famous. So Selenium remote control means again for this, if you want to use this automation Selenium remote control tool, we need a separate server, which is a cost expensive, right, for the organizations. So that's why they are not used Selenium RC when Selenium WebDriver is introduced. So improved API. So what are the features of this? So improved API means WebDriver offers a more. See, they are telling about the WebDriver now. Okay, why Selenium RC is not used means because it need a server to automate any web application. So after introduce the WebDriver, so the organizations identified WebDriver is a popular tool which is not a server dependent. So the driver object will handle the browsers while automating a web applications. That's why it is a popular. So they are not using Selenium RC. Stopped using Selenium RC. So WebDriver is becomes popular tool. So we have a improved API one feature in WebDriver. Okay, this WebDriver improved API means it offers more straightforward and intuitive API compared to Selenium RC, making it easier for developers and testers to write and maintain automated tests. So it is having improved APIs inside the Selenium WebDriver. So better performance also. WebDriver interacts directly with the browser, bypassing the need for any intermediate server. As we mentioned, as we discussed, there is no need of any server to utilize to use a Selenium WebDriver for automating. So directly the WebDriver will interact with the browsers. Okay, this is one advantage. The support for modern web applications. So WebDriver has better support for modern web applications such as HTML5, CSS3, and JavaScript frameworks. For all these modern web applications technologies, the WebDriver supporting. So ensuring compatibility with the latest web applications. So Selenium WebDriver is compatible with the latest frameworks. Okay, that's why it is a popular. So coming to Selenium WebDriver, Selenium WebDriver is a robust open source framework for automating web browsers. So for automating web applications, only we will use Selenium WebDriver. To automate a desktop application, we won't use Selenium WebDriver because it will support only web applications, not the desktop applications. For desktop applications, we can go for other third party tools like a Sicoli tool. We have some alternate options, but mostly in the world nowadays, most of the applications are web applications only, right? So internet applications only. So Selenium WebDriver is supporting the web applications automation testing. As an important part of Selenium suite, WebDriver offers a programming interface to interact with web browsers. So main important thing here, it is popular because at Selenium suite, right? The it is a offers a programming interface. That means we will write a proper structural programming to automate the web applications. The Selenium WebDriver is supporting. So because of this, it is allowing developers and testers to automate the browser actions seamlessly. So because of this programming interface using Selenium WebDriver, all the testers and developers able to automate interact with the browsers actions seamlessly. So what are the features of Selenium WebDriver means direct communication with the browsers. So there is no need of any server. Directly the Selenium WebDriver communicating with the browsers. Support for parallel execution. WebDriver allows for parallel. So parallel execution means, example, as I mentioned, right? If you have some 500 test cases, automated test cases, if you want to run the 500 test cases sequentially, one by one after the one, it will take some time, right? Some 4 hours time through automation to execute some 500 test cases using Selenium WebDriver. It will take some 4 to 5 hours, but that is a sequentially execution. When you are using parallel execution, the 500 test cases running in a 5 browsers or 3 browsers based on the selection of browsers. If we are using 5 browsers, 5 instances, that means each browser some 100 test cases running parallelly. So first 100 cases in the first browser, second 100 is second browser, and so on. So 500 test cases, automated test cases running parallelly the same time, and we can able to complete within a 1 hour. So that is the difference between the sequential execution and parallel execution. Sorry. So Selenium WebDriver supports parallel execution so that the execution speed will be faster, right? We can save some 4 hours time. So instead of running it sequentially, when you go for parallel execution using Selenium WebDriver, we can save the time and efficiency also will improve. Okay, that is the advantage of parallel execution. The Selenium WebDriver supporting. So this is the one advantage while using Selenium WebDriver. Rich test APIs. Other important feature is the WebDriver is having a rich set of APIs, application programming interfaces. So Selenium WebDriver is having a, a popular APIs. Okay, it provides a comprehensive set of APIs for navigating through web pages. So for navigation purpose through the web pages, like a go to forward page, go to back page and the previous pages, so switch to other pages or windows. So all these, right, the application program APIs of the Selenium WebDriver is supporting. So interacting with the web pages, navigating to web pages, the managing the windows like a multiple handle, that means switch to multiple windows. All these actions, right, possible using the APIs of the Selenium WebDriver. So these are the popular the features of the Selenium WebDriver. What is a Selenium grid? Selenium Grid is a server that allows tests to use web browser instances running on remote machines. This is like a for a parallel execution purpose only. So when we can run the test cases in the remote machines using Selenium Grid. With the Selenium Grid, one server acts as the hub. As I mentioned a few minutes back, in Selenium Grid, right, one mission is acts as a server, that is a hub, and other is nodes. The local machines are clients, right? Node 1, node 2, node 3. So multiple nodes, the single server. So tests contact the hub. That means the tests contact the hub means server to obtain access to browser instances. So to access the browser instances, the nodes, that means the clients will contact the server to access the browser instances. The features of the Selenium Grid are Selenium Grid allows running tests in parallel on multiple machines. So as I mentioned, as we discussed, Selenium Grid is a component in the Selenium suite which is allowing running the test cases in parallel on multiple machines and managing different browser versions. Second feature is the ability to run the tests on remote browser instances is useful to spread the load of testing across several machines. Okay, we are running the test in remote browser instances is useful to splitting the load, right? That means we are splitting some 500 test cases means we'll split into 5 machines, 100. So that is the advantage of Selenium Grid using parallel execution. So run tests in browsers running on different platforms. That means parallel execution means we can run in multiple browsers. We can run in different platforms. Platforms means like a Windows, Linux. So we can run the same test cases in different platforms and different operating systems. Okay. Platforms means example when you consider some mobile web applications, Android or iOS. So different platforms, right? So we will use the same test cases running in different devices. Example I'm saying. So it will support the parallel execution supporting all these multi-browsers, different platforms and different operating systems. So these are the advantages of Selenium Grid. One second, guys. Yeah. So this is the Selenium Grid. So features. What are the main features of Selenium? Multi-browser support. It will support Chrome browser, Internet Explorer browser, Mozilla Firefox, Safari. So it will support Selenium supports multi-browsers. The multi-language. It will support Java language, or C# language, or Python language, or Ruby language. So it will support multiple languages. Easy identification and use of web elements while using Selenium. So Selenium is used for the easy identification of the page elements in a web applications. So performance and speed are more as compared to other tools. The performance and speed of the tool is good compared to other automation tools. Selenium tool is the performance is good and speed also good. So dynamic web elements are present and easy to use. So Selenium is having dynamic web elements to use it. And also it is a open source. There is no license to use the Selenium WebDriver Selenium tools, right? No need of any purchasing license. It's free of cost. Because it's a open source. Anyone can use Selenium. That is one advantage. So portability. So easily accessible in any operating system. So we can use Selenium in a Linux machine. We can use Selenium in a Windows machine. We can use Selenium in Mac machine. Easily the portability is there. reusability of any codes and element in possible in the tool. So we can reuse any test cases, the elements in the Selenium. That feature is there. The reusability feature is there. This is one big advantage. So these are the advantages of the Selenium. So Selenium is an open source tool for automating web browsers. It helps to test the website's functionality easily. That means web applications functionality we can automate easily using Selenium and check the regular performance across different browsers and systems using cross-browser testing. So we can use cross-browser testing also. That means we can use execute in a Chrome browser, we can execute test case in a Internet Explorer. So we can check the cross-browser testing. So these are all the advantages only. Okay. And also continuous integration. This is also one advantage. Nowadays, right, every organization is automating the testing using CI/CD. That means it's a continuous integration and continuous development. So whenever developers are introduced a new code, the new changes in the web application, so automatically the test cases will execute whenever the build is deployed into some environment using CI/CD tool. So it will execute the corresponding test cases. That is a advantage in the the Selenium, because Selenium can integrate with any integration tool like a Jenkins, GitLab, continuous integration tool and all. So this is one advantage. So no need to execute manually by user. Manually in the sense, a tester should click the button to execute the test cases, right? That is not needed in the case of CI/CD. Automatically, we will put our example in a project automation project of your application. You developed some 500 test cases, automated test cases. Those 500 test cases you are moving into, you are storing in the GitLab, some repository. Example, I'm saying CI/CD means. So in the repository, we are storing all these 500 test cases. We are check-in, check-out operations will be there. So while the testers are developing the test cases, they are after that, after verifying the testing, unit testing, they are moving into GitLab. So we are checking into that. If whenever they want to make some changes, they check out. They are checking out from the GitLab and they will make the changes again. They will check in. So this that means they are storing the master code, the test cases in the any repository. Example, I am telling some GitLab. Then Jenkins is a one CI/CD tool. So Jenkins tool is supporting to create a automated jobs. We'll create a job. A job is created. We'll create a pipeline to execute the test cases automatically. So we'll create a jobs in Jenkins. We'll schedule the jobs. So we will say some smoke testing job, some regression testing job, some nightly job, some weekly job. So we'll create some any required jobs in Jenkins automation, the CI/CD tool, and we'll say whenever we want to do smoke testing, we will trigger the smoke testing job. Whenever we want to do regression testing, we will do we will execute the regression testing job. That jobs also, after creating jobs in a pipeline, then we will schedule the jobs. We can schedule smoke testing job to run at 10 a.m. in some India time. We can schedule regression testing job to trigger in night 9 p.m. So it will execute. So no need of any tester availability to execute the scripts. When you schedule the jobs in Jenkins, the code stored in the GitLab, right? When you are when developer is moving any new changes, then we'll schedule a job to execute our test cases, available test cases in GitLab using Jenkins jobs. That is the CI/CD process. So automation of test cases. That means automation testing of the test cases of a web application. So this is a one advantage in the Selenium WebDriver. So functional testing. Sorry. So functional testing means it checks the functionality. Okay. It checks the functionality of a web application again is the specific. That means the client, when you join in new IT job in any IT organization, what you will be deployed into a new project. So different projects will be there, right, in the IT organization. So one client, you joined in some Amazon client. Amazon client having multiple projects. So you deployed, you moved to one project. Then the Amazon client will give some project, right? Some project they should give to design the test cases, to automate the test cases, to execute the test cases. First, what we need, the project business requirement. So Amazon client, the business team will give the business requirement of the particular project. Then the testers will go through the business requirements and they will understand the business requirements. The manual testing team will write the manual test cases, the test plans, test strategies, test plans, and test cases. And automation test case team, what they will do? They will do the feasibility check. They will do what test cases we can, what features, what functionalities we can able to automate. So based on the business requirements, they will also go through the business requirements. They will also go through the manual test cases written by the manual testing team, and they will do the feasibility check. They will do the feasibility to identify what functionality we can able to automate. So after doing the feasibility check, then we will decide. So for this project, we can able to automate some 500 test cases in a period of some 3 months or 2 months or 1 month. So example, when you are having 5 testers, right, easily per day you can able to automate 3 to 4 test cases or maximum 5 test cases. The 5 testers means 5 into 5, 25 in a day. So 20 days in a month, right? If you exclude the weekends, 22 days will be there. So 25 into 20, that means 500. So when in a project, 5 automation testers are working, so in a day, they can able to automate maximum 20 to 25 test cases. So maximum in a 1 month or 1.5 month, they can complete the automation test case design and execution of 500 test cases of a particular project. So that's how we will do the automation testing using Selenium. So just I'm giving a brief details about the how we are handling automation in a IT company. So these are like for functional testing purpose of web applications, we'll use the Selenium. Okay, we will have some limitations also. Cross browser compatibility. Selenium can give regular best results across multiple browsers, but sometimes it's restricted in that the web browsers understand and use the HTML and CSS differently from the respective browsers. What they are saying is the cross browser compatibility is little having the less features here. Okay, so normally it will give the best results for multiple browsers, but for sometimes only it's restricted that web browsers understand and use the HTML. So web browsers means the applications, the source code will be there, the page code, HTML code, CSS code. So sometimes the web browsers understanding the source code is little tougher. That's why it is a the certain kind of limitation here. And also slow test execution, because the automation depends on the various drivers with the browser that causes the process to slow. Okay, that means sometimes this execution speed also less. So because of the it depends on the various drivers, the Chrome driver, Firefox driver. So different browsers having different driver objects, right? So based on the drivers, the Selenium driver, the performance, the execution speed also little lesser. Okay, the process I'm saying. So Selenium will be slow to respond when running tests on web applications on websites. In some situations, it will be speed will be less. So difficulty in handling dynamic web elements. So these are all different limitations. These are all, it is supporting class browser, it is supporting execution, it is supporting dynamic web elements handling. But sometimes there is a limitations based on the web applications. the driver, we will be using different drivers, right? The old drivers, third version, Selenium 3 versions, little slower. Selenium fourth version of drivers are little faster. That's why there's some limitations. And also based on the applications. So some limit in any automation tool in the market, definitely some advantages, some disadvantages, some feature, some most advanced features, and also some limitations will be there. That's why they are saying few limitations are available. So what is a Selenium WebDriver? As we all know, WebDriver is having support. It is a automation tool which is supporting multiple languages, Java, Python, C Sharp, JavaScript, and all, and it allows the automation of diverse tasks such as navigating. So we will use Selenium WebDriver for multiple actions, for navigating to web pages, interacting to web elements, submitting the forms, and for all these actions, browser actions, we'll use the Selenium WebDriver in Selenium automation. So WebDriver class browser compatibility will be there. The framework flexibility, this that frameworks is Selenium automation frameworks flexibility coupled with extensive community and active development possible Selenium. That means we have a flexibility in automation while using the automation framework. Okay, so we can use the Selenium automation framework in any like a class. We will do the class browser testing and class platform testing and class that across the multiple operating systems also. We have the flexibility nature. So these are all theoretical only. Okay. I will share the material. If you see here, some locators, these are very important. Okay, from here, we'll have some locators in the Selenium. Okay, for identifying the elements. See locators. So ID is one locator, name is one locator, class name is one locator, tag name is one locator, link test, partial link test, CSS selector, XPath, all these locators, right? In Selenium, locators is playing important role because locators are using to identify or inspection of web elements in a web applications. We can say page elements also. So locators are used to locate the web element on the basis of HTML tags, attributes, HTML text. So we'll find the elements based on the HTML tags and the text and attributes. The source code of the page is in HTML code only, right? That's why they're saying there are 8 types of locators available in. There are 8 types of locators available in Selenium WebDriver. ID is one locator, name is another locator, class name, tag name, link text like that. And in XPath also, XPath is a popular locator. So mostly when you are automating application, right? Mostly we'll use XPath and ID. So it depends on the scenario. We'll use the particular locator to inspect the web elements. In the XPath, right, we'll have types of XPath: absolute XPath and relative XPath. Okay, I will explain in the tomorrow section clearly each example. So high level, I am telling today we have some 8 locators. XPath is under one of the locator which is having 2 types: absolute XPath and relative XPath. And find element method is used to identify the methods. Okay, send keys method will be used to pass the data, to enter the data. Example, username in a web application, username, password. Those are the text boxes. We need to enter the text, right? Username and password. So using the send keys method, we will enter the text, enter the data. So that is send keys. Find element means we'll inspect the elements using find element. These two are very important methods in Selenium. Okay. If you see here high level, See example, there is a HTML page. This is a username. That means see here, there is a page. A page, some username is there, name text box, email text box, some gender drop down. If you see here, source code. When you this is when you are opening any web application in Chrome browser or any browser, we can see the source code of the page, right? If you give some F12 button, so it will open this window, HTML source code window. Then there is a arrow mark here, arrow mark in the corner, left side, top, arrow mark. So if you click that button, if you highlight any element in the page, example, if you click this arrow mark, okay, the pointer, and then you point some name text box, then it will highlight the corresponding source code. Here, the type of the element is input button, right? Sorry, input text box, and type is text. ID is name. Okay, so you can use the ID value. So we have locator, right? ID locator also we have. So you can use the ID locator and you can pass the ID value as name to identify this text box. So in Selenium, this is how we will inspect the elements. We will open a web page of application. We'll go to HTML code. We'll select this pointer and highlight any required web element to inspect. For inspecting, example, why we are doing these actions means for automation is nothing but whatever user actions. Normally, manual testers, what they will do, they will open a web application, they will go to this page, login page, they will enter name manually with keyboard and email also manually they are entered. But automation to do the same actions, same user actions, entering username, entering email, selecting the gender. These manual actions, if you want to automate, what we need to do? First, we need to identify, we need to inspect the web elements, page elements. After inspection, then we need to use the find element method for inspection, send keys method to pass to enter the name and email. So we will use those Selenium methods, find the element method and send keys method. So to perform that, to inspection, we need to go to source code and we need to identify the element using the some attributes, some parameters. The locator value, ID locator value, we'll use it. Name is a, if you see in this red highlighted source code, input type text, ID is name. So we can take the ID value as name to inspect the name text box. If you see here, what we are doing, we are importing some packages, Selenium WebDriver, Selenium exceptions, we are importing some drivers. Like a Java language only, in Selenium, we have some packages. So we are importing the packages. So don't worry about the syntax. This is a Python language. Tomorrow I will show in Java language how Selenium using. Just I'm telling this is importer of packages, and then we are using we are creating the driver object, okay, for any driver, and then we are using get method driver object. After creating a driver object, the same way in Java we are creating an object and we are accessing methods, right? In Selenium also we are creating an object first, driver object, and driver object dot get method. So get method is used in Selenium to open a browser, to open a application in a browser. So we are using a Chrome browser and we are opening a URL of application in a Chrome browser using get method. So driver object dot get method passing the application URL. This is how we will open the application in a Chrome browser. And then we will identify the elements. Driver object dot find element method. Find element method will be used to identify the inspecting the elements. Okay. Then we will identify the element using name. Name means here name is there. We'll identify using the ID locator. ID locator value name. Okay. Don't worry about the code. Tomorrow I will explain clearly. And some click method will be there. Okay, click method will be used to click any web element like a login button, any submit buttons will be there, right? In web pages, we'll use the click method to click the buttons. So we'll text is a attribute in Selenium that returns the text content. So when you use a text, right, it will return some text from the particular content. So clear method, it will clear the text in the text box and all. We'll use the clear method. Is displayed method is checking element is displayed or not. Example, when a page is loaded, some Amazon website, after page loaded, right, we need to check whether Amazon logo is displayed, Amazon title, page title is displayed. We can check the text or element availability using is displayed. Is enabled, that particular page element is disable or enable. Example, some button is there, login button. Login button, the behavior is, it will disable means we can't able to click it. When you enable, then only we can able to click it. It will allow we can user to click it. So it is checking is enabled or not. So all these methods will be there in Selenium to automate the web applications easily. Okay. So today I am closing this session. I hope everyone understood the basic concepts of Selenium. So tomorrow onwards, I'll continue the same. I will explain in detail what are the each locator, and I will show in a Eclipse IDE how we can inspect the elements using some Amazon website or anything. We can take some simple web application, and we will see how we can able to inspect the elements tomorrow session. Okay. Thank you all.
Hello?
Yeah, yes, sir.
So how is training today?
Yeah, good, sir.
I think tomorrow onwards.
We
you
explained about
will take-
Selenium and like Selenium WebDriver.
Yeah, from today, I think, okay, you need to practice immediately after the class, okay? Morning, fresh mind, practice it 1 2 hours daily. Whatever we discussed tonight, tomorrow morning, practice it, okay? Otherwise, it's very tough, huh? I don't want to repeat again. Whoever practice more next 2 weeks, okay, they will get jobs soon for sure, okay? Write it down. Main thing is, okay, the manual testing, whatever we discussed, we are good, okay? You can able to just, okay, the way you answer, okay, little bit will tweak it, okay? You are all good writing test case and all, but main thing is the Selenium, okay? Once you are thorough one project, okay, whatever he showed, okay, you just practice it immediately, okay? During the class, after the class or next day morning, okay? Then January 1st week, I will start resume creation for everyone, okay? But after mock entries only, I will start one-on-one, okay? Whoever is ready, I will start resume and marketing for them. Yeah, tell me, Harish.
Venkat garu, for Selenium, we need to download that one.
Which one, Andy?
Selenium tool andi.
Selenium tool ante Selenium tool కాదు ఇవన్నీ సేమ్ ఐడినే సేమ్ ఐడి అనండి. సెలీనియం వెబ్ డ్రైవర్, సెలీనియం వెబ్ డ్రైవర్ అవి డౌన్లోడ్ చేసుకొని ఇన్స్టాల్ చేసుకోవాలా? సేమ్ ఐడినే మీ ఎక్లిప్స్ లోనే చేయొచ్చు. ఐడి అంటే ఐడి సేమ్ ఎక్లిప్స్ ఉంది కదా మీ దగ్గర. సెలీనియం వెబ్ డ్రైవర్ ఇన్స్టాల్ చేసుకుంటే ప్రతిదానికి డ్రైవర్ ఉంటుంది. సెలీనియం వెబ్ డ్రైవర్ డిస్కస్ చేస్తుంటాడుగా ఈరోజు.
చేశారు కానీ ఎలా డౌన్లోడ్ చేయాలి అదేం చెప్పలేదండి.
వెబ్ డ్రైవర్ ఏపీఎం అని వాడాడేమన్నా? ఏపీఎం
ఏమి వాడలేదు ఆయన.
అదే iOS ఆండ్రాయిడ్ మొబైల్లో వాడాలంటే వెబ్ డ్రైవర్లు ప్రతిదానికి డిఫరెంట్ ఉంటాయి. ఓకే, అవన్నీ చెప్తాడులే అండి. ఇన్స్టాలేషన్ రేపు చెప్తాడా?
ఇవాళ జస్ట్ ఇంట్రడక్షన్ ఇచ్చాడు, డెఫినేషన్స్ అవన్నీ, సెలీనియం అంటే ఏంటి అదంతా.
Yeah, he's very good on that. Okay, he's a Java developer. 15 years he is Java core developer, and then he moved to automation for on-site opportunity. He was in Dallas. Okay, before I come to US. Okay, after I came to Dallas before 2 months before he left Dallas. Okay, yeah. Okay, just practice it. Whoever. Okay. Main thing is Sirisha garu meer koncham. Okay. Immediate గా ప్రాక్టీస్ చేయాలండి. ఓకే, ప్రాక్టీస్ చేస్తే బెటర్. ఓకేనా? దట్స్ ఇట్. ఓకే, రికార్డింగ్ స్టాప్ ఇంకా నేను